This video is for leaders who want to maximize their results by optimizing their leadership. Now, whether you want to optimize your leadership or not is kind of irrelevant because you have no choice. There's always going to be competing variables, two or more variables, that you're going to have to decide whatever kind of trade-off to make between the two, because we can't have everything. I really love Jim Collins' idea of the power of the and that's true, but can only be taken to certain limits. You can't have perfect quality and free. You can't have low price and high quality and high speed and great customer service. You can't have everything. So there's always going to be an optimization problem in anything you do in leadership and in anything you do in your business. So anything taken to extremes becomes sort of dysfunctional or impossible or impractical to do. Now you may, as is the case for different companies, I talked about the new gold standard when I did the book review recently of the Ritz-Carlton and how they take customer service and anticipation of undeclared needs, but they're also a high-end company. Yet uniquely, and this is one of the interesting things they've optimized very well, was that many of the things they do that would be considered extreme or exceptional service were or are cost-free. And one of the ways they did this is they've given the balance of control or the balance of decision-making to the employees themselves, but to do that now they have to balance that off or optimize that with psychological safety. That is, you can't punish somebody for taking initiative when you want to tap into group genius. You can't take that to the extreme where they can do anything they want with no consequences whatsoever. It has to be done within standards, which are like guardrails, and therefore restrict on that. So again, these are all expressions of optimization. But when you take something more to an extreme, you're going to have to pay for it in some way, whether that's time or money or something else. And if you want to sort of be the dominant brand, let me think of an example would be Gallup. So Gallup, quite literally, their product is asking questions. So they had to do that in such a way that they were able to focus on research and asking questions and proving the scientific validity of what they did, but then then establish themselves as enough of an authority that they could actually sell batteries of questions. Obviously, that's been successful, but you have to definitely express yourself and demonstrate yourself as an authority to do that versus a hard product, which then you don't have to have such authority, but then you have to compromise about quality and manufacturing time and expense and finding a target market that you can balance between supply and demand based on price point. So my point here is pretty simple. It's just that no matter where you are or what kind of an organization you are or what kind of a leader you are, you're going to have to balance some things with other things. To give your employees more freedom, you also have to give them more accountability. And at the same time, you can't punish them for taking initiative that you've asked them to take. So sometimes you may have to pay a cost unanticipated as a result of giving that freedom, and then use that to refine your system, to optimize your system and get better results. So one of the ways you can do this, which has its own cost, is just look to other extremophiles. Now, my example of this would be Peter Drucker, who thought that everything was a management problem and could be solved only by management. And while that's not strictly speaking true, by looking at what he did and how he did it and looking at his philosophies, you can learn from extremophiles without being an extremophile, and then take that back with you but at the cost of never being the actual innovator or authority and becoming more me too. It's again balances off against that technology push versus market pull. You can be one or you can be the other, and sometimes you can even be both, but you're really innovating along a continuum, which is another expression of optimization. So that kind of stuff is useful because somebody else can find out the limits if you're not the one prepared to do it. But again, you're compromising in terms of becoming more me too. Now I'll put a thing here about their card about a video I did called Neurocognitive Resilience in Business, which talks a little bit more about that, the extremophile thing and optimizing that. So really what it comes down to is it's not whether you are optimizing or whether you should optimize, you're doing it whether you like it or not. So it becomes more a question of what do you want to optimize? You want to optimize time, do things faster? Do you want to optimize quality, do things either better or not as well, but then gain market share in terms of volume? Price, which of course is related to quality in almost all cases. Sustainability, you want to have a zero impact company or a positive impact company. There's been very few who have done it. Best example you want to probably look at is Interface Carpets, has come up over and over again when I've read books on sustainability and social enterprise and things like that. But they had to put in a lot of time, money, and effort, but it became a priority for the owner, and therefore they did it. And the other one is, another example would be service. But all of these things have competing variables. So what it really comes down to is, what do you want your company to be? Do you want it to be branded as the authority? And to do that, you're going to probably have to spend more time, money, resources on the front end before making a product that even exists. Do you want to be the best in your industry, the cheapest in your industry, the most widely known in your industry, something else? But all these positions are valid. What it really comes down to from then, because there are many profitable models which seem contradictory, and they are contradictory, but again, that's just a question of optimization between competing variables when those variables can't be anded together to get the power of the and, as Jim Collins talked about. This really comes down to another thing Jim Collins talked about, and that was establishing your vision. What is the greater thing that will exist beyond you and your leadership of the company? How do you want to change the world beyond, but not excluding, or beyond and including profitability and social impact, whatever things are most important for you? So how you optimize is basically based is, what is your vision? And knowing what your vision is, then you can choose the variables which you're going to consider, and how you optimize those is going to be based on that vision. So that leaves only one thing left. If you don't have a vision, if you don't have something specific other than just profit, which I guess technically it's kind of a vision, but it's one-dimensional, and it's probably not going to help guide generative analogies and decision-making beyond the short term. It really comes down to, if you don't have a vision, you have to establish that first before you decide what important variables you need to optimize. So that leads me to one thing. Please put in the comments, what's your vision, your company's vision, and what variables do you optimize to bring about that vision? That's it for Crush It Club 178, Leadership as Optimization. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.